Welcome to Dune Club Q&A session 11. So excited to have you guys here. How's the sound before we get started? Want to make sure everything's good? All right, I'm getting the thumbs up, Cool. So, hey guys, how's it going? This is our, can you believe that this is the next to last Dune Club session? Like, it's crazy. Like, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for going with me on this journey for like 3 months, like 3 months. It's a real commitment. You guys really committed, and it's been awesome. So yeah, if it has been officially announced that we're doing Watchmen Club next. So I told you guys about this like last week, like before a couple weeks, like, so you guys were in the know, but now it's official. It's Facebook official. So I'm really looking forward to reading Watchmen with you guys later on in the year. Well, not this year. It'll be actually starting in February. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to have a Watchmen box pre-sale go up pretty soon, so that's going to be really cool. Be on the lookout for that next month. And yeah, I really enjoyed this session. It's so funny. Like, Frank Herbert does this a lot where, you know, he like sets up this insane problem. And then, like, you're reading this book and you're like, okay, we're getting to the end now. Like, shit's going to start happening, right? Like, shit's going to start happening. And then he, like, wraps it up in, like, the last 50 pages. And you're just like, how is he going to wrap this up in, like, 2 chapters? You know, you're just like, what? Like, what the fuck? But he always pulls it off. So that's what's going on right now. We're, like, at our penultimate deal. So next session, I'm really looking forward to talking about it. I actually already read the end of it the other day and like made some notes for myself. I gotta write my script next week, but it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's like super exciting. It's been, oh, man, Dune's just the best. I just got so much out of it this time. So let me go to my questions from my Patreon people. Let's address some of those first. Let's see here. Oh, 39 comments. Let's just scroll all the way to the top. All right. Okay. So my first question is, I don't have a question. I'm just saying hi. And it's like, okay, that's very sweet and hello, but like, this is for questions. Like, you could, okay.
You can say hi.
I mean, you can say hi. This is questions or whatever. All right. But hello, Grant. Okay, Bonita Glover asks, is Fedaykin another word for Fremen, or are these 2 separate groups of Arrakis inhabitants? And yeah, the Fedaykin are Fremen, but the Fedaykin are Paul's specific, like, the best of the best Fremen warriors. Of all the Fremen, these guys are the most badass, and so they're kind of like his personal guard and like his personal team that he leads, like his SEAL Team 6, you know what I'm saying? So that's what the Fedaykin are. The Death Commandos. Nicholas asks, maybe someone here can answer my question. Why is it that sometimes an event happens that Paul hasn't seen it with his prescient memory, like Gurney threatening to kill Jessica? And that's because his prescient memory isn't, like, it's faulty. It's not like he can see every little thing that like that's not how time works either. It's like there's all these different multiple possibilities and all this different stuff. And so, but he's been having a problem lately because he's developed a spice tolerance. Like, he's taken so much spice at this point that it really doesn't work like it used to. I mean, that happens with any drug though. Like, if you take a drug, like, I've had to take tolerance breaks for weed before where I'm just like, wow, I'm smoking way too much weed, like, to just get high. Like, I need to just chill for a minute and like let my tolerance drop so like I can be a person and not, yeah. So he has a spice tolerance, so like his visions aren't coming as well, and he's also like at that point where he does have to take the water of life if he really wants to like get past this nexus, you know, because this has been something he's been a problem for a while for him. He's like, what am I going to do? Like, my prescient vision only goes so far, and it's kind of faulty, and sometimes I don't see things, and yeah. Jesse Juarez asks, I really love the chapter with Gurney threatening Jessica. I've been enthralled with the great leadership examples in this book and seeing how much Paul is respected. I love how it was capped with Paul showing that his love showing that his love is what commanded so much respect. Do you think Herbert was trying to make a statement about love with this? And you're right. During their confrontation, Paul's confrontation with Gurney while he has his mother, he's like, you know that the Atreides, like, we get people to be loyal to us because through love, because we genuinely care about you guys, and then you guys genuinely care about us. And you know that the Harkonnen coin is like fear and hate, like, but we are like awesome, not dicks like that. And so, yeah, Herbert is absolutely saying that a better leadership, you find better leadership with people who don't try to fearmonger and who try to like actually earn the respect of their people. Like that is a better way to go about it. Although it's not as easy because you have to be like charismatic, and a lot of people, especially power hungry people, aren't always very charismatic. Some of them very much are, but a lot of them aren't like that. They can't get people to love them, so they have to use fear and like all this fucked up shit to get people to do what they say. It's a lot easier to use fear to command people than like to get them to genuinely like respect you and love you. Simon Arsenault asks, at the end of the last chapter, Jessica decides to tell Paul to choose the course of happiness and defy everyone and everything to do this. If Paul can see all possible futures, could he have found a way to get that specific course if he wanted? And I mean, Paul is like, while happiness is something that's well and good, like he wasn't put here in this universe to just like make himself happy. He's born for it. He has a terrible purpose, and that's like what he's here to do. Whether he likes it or not, he has to do that. And so I think that Paul, like part of the reason why Paul's he's a very tragic character, he's a really sad character, is because like he can't choose happiness. Like that he can't just do what makes him happy. He has to think about how his actions affect the entire human race, like the entire human race, which is a lot. So, but I mean, if he wanted to be selfish, like he could, but he's just not like that. Like he knows that he has to lead and he has a big thing to do, and he's going to do it even if he has to sacrifice what his own happiness is. But that's not to say that he's still not clever and crafty. He's not, I mean, him and Chani, like he's going to make that shit like stay. Like she's not going anywhere. Like those two are like tight. So even though, like marrying her officially and all that stuff would probably be like really joyful and fun for him, it's like, it's he does have bigger responsibilities, and he does realize that. Kelly Martin asks, all I can say is how amazing is the detail on the worm ride. I always wondered how they control those huge worm dudes, and the details with the scales and rings and how the old man is feeling is such a huge payoff. And yeah, man, I like that there was people on the tail end. They're called like goaders or something, who are goading the worm, and like that I was asking earlier, I was like, can you control how they move? And I guess you can control how they move. Like it was really cool. I got a lot of information that I was needing from that passage because I've been wondering about exactly how they ride on these worms. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing a depiction of that in Villeneuve's whatever he's doing. Like I really want to see. Man, I really want to see that shit. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Because the Lynch version has it in there, but it's not like it's not like that. It's like it could be a lot more exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. Benedict Glover. Okay, you're asking questions for next session, so we'll skip this question. C. Manuel asks, first, I just want to mention that last time when you were about to read my first question, I got so nervous. Usually I don't get this nervous, that I accidentally paused the video. Of course, it didn't play right away because of the internet connection. The video finally played after a lifetime of waiting, just to be interrupted by a new Spider-Man cartoon ad. If I tried to pause the video, it would only cause the ad, and if I refreshed the page, it would play the ad again. So there was Only one option to watch the ad for 60 seconds. I was Disney's bitch. I never felt so impotent before. When the ad finished, you had already answered my question. Oh, that sucks. That sucks so bad. Okay, so this is going to be a tricky question to explain. I'll try my best. First, if you were to draw your family tree, would you start with yourself, you would then you would draw your parents right next above you, and then one next to the other. Let's say your mother on the left and your father on the right. Now imagine you continue drawing all of your ancestry this way, mother left and father right. You would end up with a family tree in which the far left side would be all of your mother's mothers, your female ancestry, and on the far side you would find all of your father's fathers, your male ancestry. So the Reverend Mother has access to all of the memories from her female ancestry on the far left side. And the Kwisatz Haderach has not only access to those, but also to his male ancestries, the far right. My question, does he have access to the ancestry in between? By this, I mean, can he access to the memories of his mother's father or his father's grandmother? And I'm not entirely sure, but I want to say yes. But I'm not... Like, he's so vague when he talks about these things. You know, he does kind of, Frank Herbert keeps it kind of vague. So, although I think that, like, yeah, it does. Because in the next book, I don't know if it's in Dune Messiah or Children of Dune. I think it's in Children of Dune. In Children of Dune, Alia becomes possessed by the Baron. She becomes possessed by her grandfather. And so that was her mother's grandfather. So, like, yeah, I think that he probably could. Casey Puffy Dugan asks, hey CBG19, we're close to the end, but I'm looking forward to Watchmen Club. My question is, as Gurney and his crew come under attack by Paul's Fedakeen forces, he thinks to himself in shock, by the horns of the Great Mother! And it made me wonder if any other specific deities have been mentioned so far, and I think the Great Mother is the only one besides Shai Hulud, who is just an obscure niche god of the Fremen and not widely known by the rest of the Imperium. Would this imply that the Great Mother is central to the religions of most commoners? Perhaps the nobility are so privately agnostic because they associate the Great Mother with mysticism and the Bene Gesserit, who perhaps wield considerable influence on the populace. Or is Gurney just partial to her because he has a soft spot for the ladies? Speaking of, are there any deities, real world or fictional, that appeal to you and you feel a connection with? Personally, I am a devotee of Sophia. So if you read in the back, in the appendix section, there's Religions of Dune, and it talks about, you know, how, like, the religion of the Empire evolved, you know, and the one thing that that did evolve when space travel happened was that when people started space traveling, like, space, like, is a feminine thing. It's nothingness. Space is nothingness, and so it's a very yin quality to it. And so when people started traversing the space, the Great Mother kind of became. That's like why that idea kicked off. And the Bene Gesserit say that they are like a religious order around the Great Mother, which really they don't really believe. Like, they believe in the here and now and reality. They're not really like really believe in that stuff, you know. They just kind of use it, you know, but it's a character, like a mascot, I guess they have. And then the Great Mother is supposed to have like these two like horns. Like, I've seen some depictions in the Dune Encyclopedia of showing pictures of the Great Mother. And but yeah, it's just something that everyone knows within the Imperium, just like everyone now, like the god of, you know, Judaism and Islam and Christianity, like, it's the same father god, you know. It's like, it's the same guy. So like with the Great Mother, it's kind of like the Great Mother is like the divine, you know, feminine, like the divine feminine force of the Dune universe. You know, that's how they refer to her. But and everybody just knows about it. Again, it's just like everyone's grown up with that idea. So that's why he's, you know, refers to her. And You said that personally you're a devotee of Sophia. Sophia's really cool. I love that idea. I love the idea of the Sophia. I like a lot of different. I just love gods in general. I think they're like superheroes. I think religions are really interesting. I study about them on my own. You know, there's a lot of really cool gods. Lately, especially since we've been talking about Dune, I've been really reconnecting with the Christ force. Like I was reading this really awesome chapter about a whole bunch of cool shit in my Kabbalah book, you know, that's like talking about Jesus. And I was like, okay, like, because I grew up in the Bible Belt, I very much grew up with Jesus in my life when I was a kid. But now that I'm an older and I'm an adult, and I no longer identify as a Christian. I was raised Methodist, but I'm now just kind of like I'm all about the universe, you know, and I'm all about all gods. I think all gods and all religions have pieces of the truth, and so I kind of respect them all, you know, because they all have awesome things to say. But since we've been reading Dune, like, okay, so, and I wrote this on my like personal Facebook. I didn't get any responses that were worth a shit, and I got really pissed off about it. I was just like, my friends suck. Like, I don't even know. I hate almost everybody on my personal Facebook, I think. I don't know. I don't like anybody on there, pretty much. So, you know, I keep trying to write shit on there, and then I'm always like, I fucking hate all you people. Like, I'd much rather talk to the internet. Like, I'd much rather talk to you guys than talk to my friends, you know, on fucking Facebook. But anyways.
Hey, I'm friends with you on Facebook.
Well, no, not you, obviously. You guys are, okay, you guys are in the club. I'm not saying you. I mean, you guys are obviously in the inner circle.
I haven't looked at Facebook in 3 months.
Yeah, Facebook's trash. But, like, okay, so since I've been reading Dune, like, there's this, I realized this time around while reading Dune and thinking very critically about it, I realized this time that, okay, so Frank Herbert is also a big fan of religions, and he's a big fan of history, and he's just a big fan of knowing everything. He's just like a mentat dude. So back when Jesus was hanging out 2,000 years ago, Israel was controlled by Rome, the Roman Empire. They had like kind of like their own little puppet government, but like Rome was in control. And the Jews were like, we want our fucking land back. Like, we want our shit. We don't want to be controlled by Rome. We want to have control over our own fucking nation. Thank you very much. And so they were, in their religion, it was like, oh, there's going to be a Messiah who's going to come. And this Messiah is going to be a militant leader. And he is going to get your land back. You know, like, he's here to help you get your land back. And so Jesus came around. Obviously, he's not a militant leader, you know, like David was, like King David, you know, like God made a covenant with David, made him the king of Israel, he united all the tribes, you know, so like they were looking for like a David, you know, who'd like go out on the battlefield and like kill a Goliath and like do all this shit, right? So Jesus came on the scene. Obviously, he's not pro-war. Like, obviously, he's not for war. He's not about murder. Like, he cannot bring himself to do that sort of shit. Instead, he's preaching, you know, turn the other cheek, you know, like he's preaching non-aggression. He's preaching interconnectedness, like saying like we're all connected. Love thy neighbor as yourself, you know, which is like love your Roman dude who's over you, you know, like quit being a crazy person. So like that was very upsetting to a lot of people who was like, oh, this guy thinks, you know, like we're supposed to think that this guy's Messiah. Like he's not here. Like he's not our Messiah. Our Messiah is supposed to kick ass. And so Jesus decided not to kick ass. And because of that, you know, what he could have done though, because at the time, like they were ready to rebel against Rome. Like they just needed a leader to rebel against Rome, you know, and they would expect anyone who had a direct connection with God to use those perks, those hookups to like hook it up and then get them Israel back. So because he wasn't like down for that, like, you know, he was crucified. And then it's crazy because then Rome, you know, ended up taking their discarded Messiah and then creating Christianity. And then Rome is militant culture. So then they created him into this, like transformed him into this mascot of the Crusades 1,000 years later, like, which like brought even more bullshit into Israel and like bummed the Jews out even more. It was like super crazy. So Paul Atreides is a Kwisatz Haderach, right? Jesus is known as a Kwisatz Haderach, which is the Kabbalistic term where he gets Kwisatz Haderach comes from, where it's like someone who can defy time and space, someone who's able to defy time and space. And Jesus has been shown to be able to do that. There was one time when, he's walking on the water and doing all that shit. And, they were like far away from the shore, and then he like teleports everybody or something at some point. So, so Paul is essentially like, okay, if Jesus had come back, or if Jesus had come and then decided, yes, I'm going to lead these guys against Rome, take over Rome, crown himself emperor of Rome and Israel and everybody else. And the Roman Empire, I mean, it was like huge. I mean, it wasn't just Rome. I mean, it was like all over the world at that point, or covering a large portion. So that's why I've been thinking about Jesus a lot, because it's like this is essentially what if tale of what if Jesus did come back or did come and was like, yes, I'll lead you guys against Rome and then take over, But instead we have the Fremen, and we also have the Imperium. Like the Imperium is Rome. It's like instead of a Caesar, we have the Padishah Emperor. So that's got me thinking a lot lately, and I think it's really interesting. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of like thinking on old Jesus lately. I feel bad for him. It's like his whole, I'm sure he's just face palming, just like, oh my God, like everyone's just ruined, like twisting everything I've done, and like no one can like just be chill, and everyone keeps using me to like manipulate other people and like start wars over. And it's like, obviously I wasn't about that. Like, why can't people just listen to what I said? Like why can't like whatever. So I might try to start giving Jesus some better PR. Because I feel like he has bad PR, His PR team's been really bad for a long time. Let's see here. But also, I mean, like, you're talking about you're a devotee of the Sophia, and like, that's like, the feminine aspect of like the Christian God, like the kind of the Holy Spirit thing, which is like really super sick. I love, another name for like the feminine aspect of God, and I think this comes from more the Judaic tradition, is the Shekinah. And I really like the Shekinah a lot, because the Shekinah is definitely like Holy Spirit business. But see, it sucks because, you have, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is supposed to be fucking feminine, but like because we're so patriarchal, we can't allow God to have a feminine side. Like the idea of that's just too crazy. So like we just had to rename it the Holy Spirit and take away its femininity, which I think is like really fucking offensive. Like to me as a woman, I find that offensive. So yeah. Moving on. Kalojan Todorov asks, thank you so much for doing Dune Club. You're welcome. To my question, how does Princess Irulan know so much to write these books? Okay. Well, Ryan Weiss popped in and said keep reading, so I'm going to give you the same thing. Yeah, just keep reading. Like, you'll know. We're getting there. We're getting there. Next question. Nico Katsilis asks, this is more of a comment observation than a question. It would seem the Reverend Mother's ceremony and facing the Sardaukar in the Fremen caves were two critical branches in time that Paul needed to prevent or handle differently in order to stop the jihad. It's like even knowing of the jihad and having the urge to stop it is not enough to diverge far enough away from the jihad to an alternate path. Thoughts? Okay, so yeah, you're right. It's not even like, if it's like, yeah, here's the thing. It's like Paul knows that like whether he lives or dies, like this, it's gonna happen. Like it's like there was that one moment in the cave where he was like, the only way that I could potentially stop this jihad is if everybody in this cave, including me and my mother and all of this Fremen troop that we just joined up with, died right now. Like, and that's obviously not going to happen, and he's not going to commit suicide, and he's not going to kill all these people and his mom. And so, and I do love that he's like so concerned about it, because the thing is like he doesn't enjoy killing, and he doesn't want to see billions of people die in his name, like just like Jesus wouldn't want that, Like just like Jesus, like I don't want to be fucking, like I don't want this, like I'm not trying, like Like, I don't even want to, do not put my name in with the Crusades, you know, like, but it's like, it's gonna happen, like, it's gonna fucking happen, whether you want it to, whether you're alive or dead, you know, and it's interesting that, you know, it's like Paul stays alive because he wants to try to prevent this thing from happening, you know, and then at the same time, you know, Jesus died to, you know, maybe one of the reasons he chose to allow himself to be crucified was because he didn't want to take that route to lead like the Jews in rebellion against Rome. But it doesn't matter. The jihad still happened. You know, it wasn't, although somebody else took him out, like took the idea of him and transformed him, because it's like the Roman Catholic Church. You know, that's where Christianity was born out of, is in Rome. So it happened. Even though he died, he ended up becoming the military leader that he never wanted to be, you know? So it's fucked up, man. Like, Paul's in a real pickle here. He's in a real pickle. It's not easy. Nico Casillas asks, didn't the shout-out Mapes state that an unsheathed crysknife must draw blood? There's been an awful lot of crysknife unsheathing in these last few chapters, especially the ducal swearing in of Stilgar. Is this just the result of Paul's effect on the Fremen culture? That's a really good question, because I have noticed that as well. But I mean, I know that there was the thing where it's like you can't. There's also the thing where it's like you can't show it to like other people, like off-worlders should not see it. You know, the people who are unclean, and that's another thing that comes up later. You know, where it's like, wait a minute, I thought that people who are unclean, like off-worlders, like were not allowed to see this shit. But then again, like, things change, you know, and Paul is having an effect on the Fremen culture. He is. Although, did he I don't know. Maybe he did sheath it unblooded. It's a good question. Maybe Paul is just changing things. 2, next question. I'm not sure if this has been discussed, but why hasn't Jessica acknowledged the similarities between her position with Leto and Chani's with Paul? Shouldn't she have a bit more empathy for Chani's situation? And she has thought about it a little bit. There have been times where she was like, she has acknowledged that to herself. Like, she feels like maybe she should have more empathy for Chani. But at the same time, she's just like, this is how it is, you know? And the thing is, though, is like, she also, I mean, even she could have had Duke Leto marry her, but she didn't, because she understood the reasons why, and like she understood her responsibility. And so even though she may have wanted to be official, you know, Facebook official, she knew her place and knew why they were doing what they were doing, even though it upset her, and she sacrificed her own happiness for this. And so that's just what you do when you're in a royal family. Like, that's just what comes with the territory. And so she just accepts it, and she just wants Paul to also accept that, you know. Willer Niekirk asks, do you think the corruption of the Spacing Guild and the monopoly on spice are comments on the nature of capitalism? Yes. He's absolutely, like, Frank Herbert through all this is absolutely talking about capitalism, and just, but not just capitalism, just like government in general, like, and oligarchies even more. Like, it's like, it's not so much about capitalism, it's about oligarchies, because the thing is that it's not, you know, the empire is really run by the Spacing Guild, like, and the Bene Gesserit. Like, those two are kind of like the big people that are making things run. You know, like, they're really definitely a part of the ruling, you know, make part of the decisions of what happens in the Imperium. And so, yeah, I mean, he's absolutely talking about that. He's also talking about oil, you know, he's also talking about, like, literal water, too, where it's like water is going to dry up. He sees that, like, happening. Like, oil is going to go away. What's going to happen to the big fucking monopoly that we have? It's like our whole system right now is dependent upon oil. Like, everything that we're doing, like our cars and our transportation, and like even down to like growing our food and stuff. It's like it's crazy. And it is a finite resource, and it's going to go away at some point. So like, what the fuck happens then, you know? Although obviously there's like, what the fuck happens? Well, we get different sources of power. I think that totally it's a fixable problem. I don't think it's as bad as all that. And I wish oil would just run out so we could just quit fighting over it and then just come up with some new shit that's like harness the power of the fucking sun, or harness thermal energy, or harness whatever the fuck, sea waves, wind. I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not a fucking scientist on that shit, but I know that somebody out there is, and I know that somebody can fucking figure it out if they haven't already. Ryan Weiss asks, a couple weeks ago I was feeling that final stretch and I finished Dune. I'm halfway through Messiah now, and any thoughts on doing a smaller project for Messiah since it's half as long as Dune, or perhaps combining Messiah and Children into one book club in a year or so? I want more Dune discussions and custom CVG19 Dune merch is what I'm getting at. Well, Ryan, we live in a universe of possibilities. I have not decided exactly what to do yet. I am open to the idea of doing Children of Dune and Messiah. I originally thought that. My original idea was like, if I'm going to follow up Dune Club, I do want to do both of them together because they are shorter books. But right now, it's like, we'll see how it develops. I mean, there may be something next summer. After Watchmen Club. It's like, we're going to do Watchmen Club starting in February. I think I'm going to make that 6 weeks. Maybe. I'm going to try to see if I can make it 6 weeks and do 2 issues a week because there's 12 issues of that. And then later on this summer, like maybe we'll do Messiah together. We'll see. We'll just see how everything goes. You know, I can't make any promises. But if there's enough excitement about it, I'm sure we can maybe figure something out. Because it would be really cool to like, because I think that like as much as Dune is really awesome, and it is super awesome, Dune is just like the beginning, you know, and I feel like the books that follow it are even more important than the first book. You know, the first book just sets it up. It's like this book just sets everything up, and then like the next books just get like crazier and crazier and crazier. And a lot of people don't like Dune Messiah, and a lot of people don't really like Children of Dune, and then some people really don't like God Emperor, but a lot of people don't like Messiah because now you see Paul and he has the burden of responsibility upon him. Like now he's the Emperor, and this whole fucking power structure has grown up around him. He is disgusted by it, you know, he's just like, this sucks, you know, like I don't want to leave, like this is just not what I wanted, you know, and he sees like where all this is going, and he just can't even, you know, he has a really hard time with it. Like, and the jihad goes on, and like all these people are dying in his name, and he's just like super bummed, you know, I mean, he's just like not having it, and he's like depressed about it, like, because it's not, he wasn't able to stop the terrible fucking jihad thing. It's like he wasn't able to do it, and he's got to live with it, and it sucks, and it's just like and it's such a burden on him that, you know, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but like, and people don't like seeing their hero like that is the thing. Like a lot of people, I think, read Dune Messiah and then they quit doing the rest of the books because they see their, you know, their beautiful Paul, their charismatic leader, like they see him in a position where, you know, he's not just like kicking everyone's ass and winning, and like he just doesn't, like he hates kind of what he's built, you know, he just kind of hates what he's built, and it's hard to see your dude down like that, you know, but it's like, but that's what happens. I mean, it's all fun and games to like win, you know, it's like Robert in Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, he was really great at winning the throne, but then when he actually had it, it was just like, what the fuck, you know? Not that Paul's gonna be a shitty ruler like Robert was, but at the same time, it's just like, it's fun to win the throne, but then when you have it and now you're the emperor and responsible for everybody, and then it's just like, ugh, like it just becomes not as fun. Michael Erickson asks, the chapter heading about the interplay between an orthodox religion and politics really stuck with me as one of the more poignant aphorisms of our society. You are known for your catchphrase, embrace the chaos, but I believe a more apt phrase would be balance the chaos. What do you think? Yeah, well, balance, it's more like balance the control, you know, because I feel like there's like this illusion of control that we all love so much. Like, oh yeah, we're so in control. And we're really not in control. Like, there's very few things the only thing that you really can control is like yourself. And most people don't even attempt to try to control themselves. You know, there's like a lot of people that have a really hard time with that. And And so that's why I think embrace the chaos. Like that's why I kind of chose that. It's because it's like let go of this illusion of control. Like let go of this illusion of control and just embrace the chaos. Just embrace it. It's good for you. Let the universe like quit trying to outsmart the universe and think that you have better ideas for what you need to be doing because the universe knows better and the universe knows what the fuck you should be doing and you should just be embracing the chaos and let the universe lead you to where you're supposed to be instead of being like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then in 5 years, I'm going to be here. And then I'm going to have this thing. And I'm going to have, a wife and 2 kids. And, it's like, that's bullshit. It's just total shit. So I think that that's kind of where I get the embrace the chaos thing. And it's also something to, like, for me to, like, mind myself because I also love the illusion of control. Like, we all do. We're all human beings. And so I need to learn to also embrace the chaos more. I feel like that's something that we all need to just continue to learn to do. But I think by embracing the chaos, you do balance yourself out a little bit more. It is more balancing to do that because control is when you're holding on tight to something, and that like I feel like the universe is kind of like a river, and you can't really hold on to a river. All you can do is kind of swim with it. You have to swim with it. And that's how you get further, instead of trying to like choose your own course and go this way or go that way. It's like you just go where the fuck the universe wants you to. So, and that's how you find kind of more of a balance, is by just going with the flow, Not to say there aren't times where you got to do some shit. Of course you do, but but yeah, and that's another thing, saying balance the chaos. Like balance the chaos makes it sound like chaos is a bad thing that you need to, fix. And it's not like that. Like chaos, we shouldn't think of chaos as something that's like inherently negative. I think that there's a lot of negative connotations with that term. And, by embracing the chaos, it makes it sound like you're accepting it versus balancing it means that you don't accept it. So, but interesting thought. Thank you for your question. Maverick Opinions. Hi CBG19, Team 19. I was wondering, with as immersive and expansive as Dune is, with its incredibly well-developed characters and extremely detailed world and mythology, it's only natural that other science fiction, fantasy books, and films would be inspired by it, as well as their creators. Can you mention any notable books, films, and directors who have been inspired by Dune and Frank Herbert? I think that, I feel like almost everybody who came after Dune, who's like a heavy hitter in science fiction, whether it's movies or books, has been influenced on some level by Frank Herbert. Obviously you have the Three-Eyed Raven in Game of Thrones, who I feel like is a direct descendant of the Kwisatz Haderach. So Martin he's got a little bit of flavor in there. He's got a little Dune flavor in there. Obviously, Alejandro Jodorowsky is someone who was like originally trying to make the Dune film. It fell apart, and then he used all of his inspirations and ideas and put them into a lot of his comic books, including the Inkle and the Metabarons. So the Inkle and the Metabarons are definitely Dune influenced. I would say the Metabarons is very, very much Dune influenced, where the Inkle takes some of the ideas, but takes them in really wild, different ways, like that are like totally crazy. But like within the Yodaverse, like there is a Imperium, and then there's like this person who's in charge, who's like an androgyne. It's like a half woman, half man. Like there's like a man and a woman twins, and they're like stuck together on their back, and like I don't know, it's really weird, but it's totally worth checking out. So yeah, the Yodaverse. Game of Thrones, like there's all sorts. I'm sure there's like tons of other things that I can't think of off the top of my head, but yeah, there's lots of stuff. Pierre Jerome asks on page 692, Paul says, the good of the tribe. That is the most important thing, eh? This A to end a sentence showing Paul as a stereotypical Canadian. Why was Paul's Canadian origin not mentioned before? On an even sillier note, does Gurney Halleck drink coffee like Paul or tea, Earl Grey hot? All I have to say is, with only one session left, I'll keep my serious questions for the end. Paul as a Canadian makes me laugh in my head because I just think to myself, like, Canada you guys seem so chill in Canada. You guys seem like, and Tyson has a theory about why Canadians are more chills because you guys have hockey and that you guys get your aggression out playing hockey so that, you know, when you're in your everyday life, you don't have to be an asshole. So I think that's, I don't know, you guys tell me, is that a thing? Do you feel Canadians like that's something where you have a place to get that aggression out and so then you can just be like easier to deal with in your everyday life? Um, and I think Gurney is a tea man though. I mean, it's so funny. Like for those of you who don't understand the Earl Grey hot thing, Gurney Halleck was played by Patrick Stewart in the David Lynch movie, and then obviously Patrick Stewart is also Captain Picard, who drinks tea. He's a tea man, Earl Grey, hot, you know. And so yeah, I think that Halleck would like tea, and I think it's I don't know, like it's so funny. I love I just love Patrick Stewart. I love him, and so from now on, like whoever plays Gurney Halleck, like in my head, I'll always just be like, should be Patrick Stewart. Like it's that guy, you know. Like he's so good. When we've been looking up pictures for Dune Club, like I've definitely seen some people who've drawn like their version of a Gurney Halleck, and even their version of the Gurney Halleck. Generally, like a lot of them end up kind of favoring Patrick Stewart because he's such a fucking amazing human, and everybody loves him so much. He's so good. Um, Moving on, Iona Mojo. I don't want to turn this into a political thing, but I couldn't help draw a parallel between the pro-life, pro-choice issue of our time and that very intense ritual that Jessica had to go through to become a Reverend Mother, and how Alia was basically a fetus at the time, but talked about as someone with a conscience that felt fear. What do you make of that? And I mean, that is the big question, is like when do you go from being a few cells to having a spark of consciousness, you know? And like no one knows. Like no, I mean we can argue that shit till the cows come home, you know? It's like no, because of the thing, nobody fucking knows. Like nobody fucking knows. Like it is a thing. But it is interesting to think about. Like, and you know, we all have that spark of consciousness, so it's like it's in there somewhere. It's just when does it happen? You know, like nobody knows, and because that, it's like, it's you know, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Hold on, I accidentally booped away from my thing. Okay, let me go back here. Let's see here. Sorry, I lost my place. I have to scroll back here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there you go. But it is a fascinating question, you know. It is a fascinating question of like when do we become, when does that spark happen? Shiny L asks, I feel a little dumb for asking this question so late in the book, but can you explain what the Bene Gesserit plan to do with the Kwisatz Haderach? Do they want someone they can control and manipulate to their own goals, or do they want a leader or a teacher whose path they can follow? Or is it something else that I'm missing entirely? And yeah, the Bene Gesserit want, I mean, they want a man who will come who can be like the Reverend Mother and like, you know, see past, you know, all this shit. But like they do want to be able to control him. They want him to be on their team. You know, they definitely want him to be on their team. But the thing about the Bene Gesserit is if you're on the Bene Gesserit team, then you have to do everything that the Bene Gesserit order. Like, you know, you have to do everything you're ordered to do if you're on their team, you know. So they absolutely do want control over the Kwisatz Haderach. But they're not going to get it with Paul, you know, which is the thing. It's like, and that's another thing that's like, it's so silly of them to think that you can meddle with power like on that level and then control it, you know, and that's kind of that's the fault of humanity a lot of times. We're always meddling in powers that we think that we can control, and then it's like, nope, like think again, you know, like you can call forth the power and you can bring it here, but once it's here, like you have no control over it, like no control over it. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like in the like doing like magic rituals or some shit, you know. It's like you can do a magic ritual and you can ask for some shit and it's gonna happen, But it's not going to happen in the way you want it to. It's not going to happen in the way you think it's going to happen. It's going to surprise you. It's going to, like, you have no control over how it manifests at all. And you have to just be really careful about, like be careful what you wish for, because like this shit can come true, and then it can like really fuck your shit up. So, so yeah, they're definitely looking for someone who's gonna be on their team and do what they want them to do. Let's see here. Vanessa Wolfheil. Never mind. It's not a question. Camila Collar asks, hey, CBG18, Duke Club has been a blast, and I can't wait for Watchmen Club. Oh, and hey, sorry I over-enthusiastically linked you to St. Francis statues on Twitter. I was just so excited that you were taking him back for all of us who have ever had shitty neighbors. If you guys didn't know, my neighbors threw away this St. Francis statue. Okay, so my neighbors decided to throw away a St. Francis statue. I believed it was communal art, communal property. I had a relationship with this statue. The statue has been there even before I got there, way before these people got there.
And you have how many neighbors in your complex?
How many neighbors? I have the people, so there's
4 neighbors.
Well, there's 3 neighbors, including me, so there's 4 of us in this little community.
Yes.
Yeah, so
there's
there's
a garden in the middle.
Yeah, with the guard. Yeah, there's like a courtyard. And so he was like, they moved him. He was originally in their yard, front yard. And they didn't like him, so they moved him to the back by the bamboo in the courtyard, which I was like, okay, that's awesome, because now he's closer to me and I like him and he's like really cool. Because St. Francis is the saint of, he's the patron saint of ecology and the patron saint of animals. He was an animal lover and like a nature dude. So, that's why you see a lot of St. Francis's in gardens. And so I just thought he was so awesome. And then one day I came home and it was the middle of the night and I was taking my trash out and then I opened up the trash can and St. Francis was in the trash. And I was just like, who would put a statue in the garbage can? Who would put a St. Francis in a garbage can? Like, why? And my neighbor did it because they thought he was ugly. And just the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. And then the next day, I was gonna get Tyson to help me get him out of the trash can because I didn't. He's really heavy.
80-pound statue.
He's like an 80-pound statue. He's really heavy, and so I was gonna have Tyson help me. But then when I went back, like maybe 13 hours later, he was gone, just gone, gone. And I don't know where he went. I don't know who took him. I asked my other neighbors. They did not take him. I don't know if he ascended into heaven. I don't know what happened. It was fucking nuts. But I was like so pissed that I went out that day and I went down the street and I bought a new St. Francis statue and put him right back where he was. So we have a St. Francis is back. This is back, baby. I want to start just like, I kind of feel like I should just start buying more St. Francis's and just like have them multiply. Like for every one St. Francis you cut down, like 5 will appear in his place. But yeah. So, okay, back to your question. Anyways, full disclosure, I've read the Dune series before, but I love the discussions. The concepts explored only get more and more fascinating every time I return to the books. Same. My question is this. Paul and Jessica's awareness, guilt, blatant opportunism about leveraging the Missionaria Protectiva to their advantage is explicitly alluded to throughout the novel. But doesn't it seem to be implicitly alluded to by the author that perhaps Paul and Jessica truly are the manifestations of prophecy and Paul is just too modest and thus qualified for the job to believe it? I mean, it's one thing for a historic Bene Gesserit to have seeded the notion that one day a Bene Gesserit will come to Dune and she will be awesome and so don't kill her. But it's kind of another to specify that an important Bene Gesserit will arrive, like the partner of the Duke, with a son who has the ability to lead the Fremen to prosperity, right down to Paul knowing their ways as if he's born to them. It sure seems like a prophecy that's way too specific to help any old Bene Gesserit who might find herself on Arrakis in a jam. I realize that Paul's prescience can explain much of the way he conforms to the legend, even unconsciously, before he realizes the extent of his abilities. But at the same time, the mere fact that the ducal heir son of the Bene Gesserit who arrives on Dune happens to be the prescient Kwisatz Haderach is in itself too perfect of a coincidence for this not to be. In fact, the way that the prophecy fulfills itself. In general, I feel like Frank Herbert subtextually hints at the existence of a non-material, i.e. spiritual or cosmic in the woo-woo sense aspect of the Dune universe in myriad ways without ever making it explicit through aspects like the way the genetic memory manifests, etc. It's sort of like Herbert figured out how to work quasi-spiritual ideas into solidly material elements of the story so as not to alienate sci-fi readers who account for more atheists than the general population. Does this sound wildly off base to you? How much of the Dune universe do you feel is mystical, spiritual, whatever? And I think that he is talking about like intention and manifestation, and that I feel like if you have people, a group of people who really, really believe something, it will eventually manifest itself, you know, like, but in our world right now, you have so many different groups of so many different people believing so many different things. But if you have like a group, a real group, get them together and like really like they believe their shit, like eventually it's going to manifest. And again, it's like be careful what you wish for because eventually you are going to get it. And because that is a law of the universe. It is be careful what you wish for because you might just get it. And so I think with the Fremen, I mean, we see the Fremen, they're so devoted to, you know, their religion. They're very devoted to, because they, you know, it's like they're a very devoted, intense group of people. I mean, they're praying every night the same prayer of like never forgiving and never forgetting. Like they live with this grief, you know, like every day they live with this grief, and these militant, grief-stricken people are all together, you know, like thinking that they want to be delivered from political bondage, you know, and the universe provides someone for them eventually. And it's like, it's nature and it's nurture. Like, yes, they definitely are opportunistic and they are exploiting these people in their minds. But that it is also like it's both, you know. It's like they're all opportunistic, but it's also like they are kind of the ones that are prophesized. Like it's weird. It's like that give and take where it's again it's nature and nurture. So it's like yeah, sure they do all this, you know, they bend this religion stuff, but at the same time it's like it's just so they're so perfect. Like I mean it's just insane how perfect they are. But then again, we live in a universe of possibilities, and eventually the lottery is going to hit, you know, and that's what happened with the Bene Gesserit wanting Kwisatz Haderach is like they believed, like alternatively you have the Bene Gesserit who believe that one day a man will come and he will be able to be a Reverend Mother and be able to look into the place that they cannot, you know, and when he can do that, then they can, obviously he's going to be super powerful and then be able to lead humanity on a course, you know, that's like where we need to be. And so, you know, they are trying to win this lottery. I mean, they're playing the Powerball, you know, and eventually, again, they hit. You know, it's like eventually you're going to hit. If you play enough times, eventually you're going to hit. And that's just like, and it's just like this, it's improbable, yes, what everything that happens and how everything lines up, but it's not impossible, you know, because again, we live in a universe of possibilities. So, yeah, so I really like that he's kind of touching on that. I feel like that's what he's touching on is that you can manifest like what you wish for if you wish for it dear enough and long enough and hard enough. Like something will happen eventually. But it happens in a realistic way, you know, like it manifests it has to manifest. It can't just pop up out of nowhere, you know. It's not like there's no miracles, you know. There's just probabilities. Ox asks, I think it wrong for Paul to let Stilgar live. I think the precedent set forth is what keeps them strong, and I also understand that he's one of the strongest in the group and they need that strength. It also seems like a Caesar Koba situation where there will always be others who don't follow Paul and inevitably splits the group and makes them weaker. What are your thoughts with that? Because I could very easily see Paul being haunted by watching Stilgar die like Caesar did too. I think that, I mean, Paul understands, like, if he pulls this whole deal off and he becomes the emperor, he definitely won't have time to be, like, Stilgar is, like, over all the tribes. Like, he's over Siege Tabor, but he's also kind of over all of the tribes. He's, like, the main dude. And like he's just not going to have time to do that, and so he needs Stilgar around to do that for him, you know. And I think he made the right choice by not killing Stilgar. And also the thing is like Stilgar is like the strongest, best Fremen that has ever been produced. Like he's like the best of the best. But after Paul, if they do win and like the Fremen get what they want and they get open water and they get all the stuff, like what the Fremen want is to not be the Fremen anymore, essentially. It's like they want their entire way of life dismantled, because when they're able to like have open water and not wear still suits all the time and not be so disciplined because their planet isn't such a piece of shit and it's nicer outside, then they're going to lose their strength anyways, you know, and that's what they want, essentially. You know, it's like they're not, kill Stilgar or not, if they when they get their freedom, they are going to suffer for it in certain ways. Like what makes them so beautiful is like going to, like the pressure that makes them so beautiful. Like the pressure, you know, turns a coal into a diamond. It's like that's the Fremen. You know, they were coal and then they've been pressured by this planet that they turned into the diamond. But they're just going to turn back into regular old lumpy ass coal, you know. And so it's just like, well, if that's what they want anyways, then like fuck it, you know. Like let's change the ways, because they're gonna suffer eventually anyways. They're not gonna be the Fremen after. They're not gonna be the same. And that's something else that like really breaks Paul's heart, is because he really does fall in love with this culture. He really does fall in love with his people. And so I mean he falls in love with Chani. I mean she like fathers all of his fucking children. Like it's a whole thing. So but to know that like you're going to be the one to destroy them by giving them the thing that they want. Again, be careful what you wish for, you know. It's like that sucks for him. Like, that's really sad. He's not excited about it, you know. Matthew Raymond asks, I was reading one of the passages at the start of the chapter that was purportedly a saying of Muad'Dib, but then I realized that I was taking its veracity on faith, and that it was actually a second-hand account from Princess Irulan, a Bene Gesserit and the daughter of the Emperor. She may have altered the accounts of Muad'Dib, or even invented some things out of whole cloth, and could do so with knowledge of the voice, which I presume could be used with slightly diminished effectiveness in text form. How much of what she wrote was real, and how much of it was part of her own agenda? I feel like Princess Irulan, like, that poor bitch, you know, like I have a lot of compassion for her. I feel bad for her. And I think that whatever she wrote was definitely edited by somebody, you know, and they were like, I don't think she could just publish whatever she wanted. I think that she would have to, she would be checked up on. I don't think that she might be able to put a couple things in for her own agenda, but like she doesn't really have one, you know, like she's just kind of the sad character who all she can do is like write books now. So I think that you should kind of trust what she says, but maybe not. I don't know. Just if it doesn't strike you, like you might be right. Mark Jake asks, "Hi teacher, sorry I'm missing the Q&A today. One of my relatives very inconsiderately chose to be born on this day 60 some years ago, and apparently I have to commemorate it." Well, happy birthday to whoever it is, your dad probably, or your mom. See you next time. Hope to see you next time, Mark. Max Barrow asks, I can't believe we're nearly done. I have a more general reading question this week. This session, we got another song from Gurney on page 707, but I have a problem with this and all of the songs that have been in the book so far where I can't hear music as I read it. I'll try humming along with the words sometimes, but it ends up sounding like some lame beat poetry and takes me out of the story. My question is, how do you imagine these songs sounding as you read them? Would you be willing to demonstrate a couple lines? Anything might help my failure of imagination for these songs. Max, to be 100%, I'm with you. I can't even with these as well. I keep trying to think, like, what does this sound like? I have no idea. I'm with you. It is really hard to like figure out what like this is supposed to sound like, because I'm just in the exact same boat. So I don't know if I can help you out with this one, but maybe Denis Villeneuve and whoever he gets to help him make some songs, like maybe then we'll have someone tell us what's up pretty soon, you know, in a few years. Let's look forward to that together, Max. Epileptic Tiger asks, when Gurney was demanding that Paul take his life for his behavior, did anyone else hear that in groundskeeper Willie's voice? Yeah, there was some people who, yes, said agreed. Okay. Jake asks, I just read this session today and was feeling a little blue this morning beforehand. So I got in my car and drove and ended up in a town called Hope, about 200 kilometers away, then sat in my car and read it. And I got so teary-eyed at the last chapter where Gurney finally meets up with Paul and Jessica, and the three of them are displaying such raw emotion. Gurney is able to let go of his anger towards Jessica and at last learns that it was Yui who betrayed Duke Leto, and Jessica from letting go of her plans for Paul and accepting Chani, and now fully backing up Paul. And the three of them have this beautiful moment together where they let these emotions out and reconnect. And I felt like I was a part of that moment with them. To read about what these characters have gone through, the deaths and betrayals, to finally have a turning point where Paul defies not only what was expected of him but through his people, but defies Frank Herbert in the story flow of the novel, does signify the beginning of a new life for a character has now replaced rebirth, in which Paul saves Stilgar, and through Gurney's point of view, Paul and Jessica's resurrection. And for me, having read that in Hope, A Place I Never Go, was emotionally powerful. Thanks for getting me to read this book in a time in my life when I think I needed it. And yeah, Jake, I mean, it's really cool that you found a town called Hope when you're like feeling down and then like read the book. Like, that's so fucking sick. Like, that's really picturesque. It's very picturesque in my mind. And that's exactly kind of the stuff that, and I feel like I do shit like that when I'm down too. You know, it's like I like to get in my car and drive sometimes. Like I've done some real big loops around LA in the middle of the night when I'm just like, oh, I just need to drive around. I don't know what I just need to think, you know, get some wind in my hair. And also, I mean, every time I read Dune, it just, man, it's just like, it really has all these synchronicities that start timing up with my life, and it really like enriches my life in all these really amazing, unexpected, wonderful ways. You know, that's just like so fucking cool. That's why I really love this book, and that's why I wanted to share it with all of you, is because I feel like it's a magical book. Like, I feel like it's fucking magic. Like, this book is magic. You read it, and shit starts happening to you. Like, if you're connected, you know, if you're connected with this book, I think that it is just like Paul and Jesus were awakeners, you know, like the sleeper has awakened, like they're here to be awakeners. I think this book is also an awakener. And I think that's really important with what's going on right now in our world. You know, it's just like things are starting to get crazier and crazier and crazier. And like, you know, we got fucking, I mean, how many like natural disasters have happened this year? Like, it's been like super nuts over the past few years, and just like shit's getting real. And so we need to like wake up a little bit, and like we can't keep playing around as children and arguing amongst ourselves like as a race. You know, humanity kind of needs to get it together. And so I feel like this is one small way that maybe I can help, you know, get some people to think a little bit bigger and like, you know, expand their awareness and awaken a little bit themselves. And think about things in a different way maybe. And so I'm glad that that you came along with me, Jake, on this journey. I'm glad that's working out for you and that you're getting something from it, because this is exactly why I'm doing this. Like, this is exactly why I'm doing this, is so, you know, you can get something out of this, and that hopefully it will bring some new things to your life to think about that might help in a lot of different ways. Candy for Crow's Simmer asks, was the Fremen way of killing a leader for another to take their place in one-on-one combat started as a Fremen tradition, or was this too put into their minds by outsiders as a way of controlling their culture? What better way to rid them of two strong fighters than just have them fight each other? Just like in foreign politics, the U.S. will kill a leader who they don't agree with or is harder to manage and put in a puppet who will go along with the rest of the rules. Perhaps over time this evolved in the Fremen culture. Outsiders convinced them the best way to have elections was murder, convinced that the stronger will survive and the weaker must always die. And in my opinion, I would say that this is something that's come from Fremen culture, because it is survival of the fittest on that planet. Like, it literally is survival of the fittest. That's how, like, it's such a harsh planet. You have to be incredibly strong to survive. And so, I mean, while it might seem somewhat backwards to us, from their perspective, it makes sense that you need someone who's like literally the strongest to lead you, you know, and that's why, and through this way of life and this way of leadership, That's why you have been able, because like remember when Stilgar is talking to Jessica in the cave before like right after she's accepted, and like he was saying, you know, we can't get I don't want to marry you because it's gonna like affect my leadership, and then I'm gonna have to hurt a bunch of people, and like that's more important to me than like you and whatever. And she thinks to herself, whence comes such breeding? You know, like, because that's the Bene Gesserit thing. Is like they're all about like your pedigree, you know, like your breeding pedigree. And she's like, like she is like as a Bene Gesserit. I mean, she is impressed with this peasant. I mean, even though Stilgar's leader, he's considered a peasant living outside the Frofferlukes, you know. So people in the Imperium just like have zero respect for these people. And she sees like, oh my God, like this guy's insanely amazing. Like what an amazing human. Like how did they breed as somebody this amazing? And it's because survival of the fittest. And it's because of that fucked up shit that like they were able to like weed out the weak ones and then get people like Stilgar. So, but that's my take on it. I mean, you could interpret it in a lot of different ways. Tim Farber asks, I just have a couple of comments. I like I like how baklava is still good in this future. I know, right? I know. Also, I didn't know where it was because I was listening while riding my bike, but I think it was Princess Irulan chapter Prelude. The Orthodox must choose between destruction in order to uphold principle or falling from political power in order to hold power. That's it. It's not really a question. I don't know how to answer this. But yes, baklava is still good in the future. You know, everyone likes honey and layers of like nuts, and that's always awesome. And then, but yeah, that header was really cool. Let me see if I can find that header real quick so we can just, because there's been a couple people who've been talking about it. Let's see here. Okay. You cannot avoid the interplay of politics within an Orthodox religion. This power structure permeates the training, educating, and disciplining of the Orthodox community. Because of this pressure, the leaders of such a community inevitably must face that ultimate eternal question: to succumb to complete opportunism at the price of maintaining their rule, or risk sacrificing themselves for the sake of Orthodox ethic, you know. And that's something that all leaders, it's like, do you do something that's like kind of fucked up but outside the rules to like, you know, or do you not do it but then hurt your own like people? Like it's yeah, it's a real question. It's a real, like, I've been thinking about this one a lot. I'm still kind of thinking about it, to be honest. I haven't like completely formed exactly what I want to say about it. Although another thing, while we're on the topic of headers, I really like the header, how often is it that the angry man rages denial of what his inner self is telling him? And that's the chapter where Gurney attacks Jessica, and like he's so angry. You know, he's so angry and she's seething with hate, you know, and it's not just because he thinks that she's a betrayer, but like maybe part of this rage that he feels is that coming, like what makes his rage all the more insane is that he knows it's not true, like deep down. He knows that it's not true, but and it doesn't make any sense to him. And so, but he believes it. And so he's angry, you know, because he thinks like this is the information that he's received. So he's like, he knows it shouldn't be true. He's received information that says it is true. And then he has this internal conflict, you know. And I feel like that's something that like we should all think about. Because I don't know, I have a lot of anger problems sometimes. I get kind of angry about shit. I just have a lot of emotions. They're just like really overwhelming sometimes. And a lot of times like some of my anger has come from denial of what my inner self is telling me, where I'm doing something that isn't in step with what my inner self, like my higher self knows, you know, and that's why you get angry about shit. You know, that's why I've gotten angry about shit. I thought that was a really excellent header, personally. Moving on. Heath Calloway says, Session 11 comment. I listened to the book on Audible because I had a traumatic brain injury that caused damage to the part of that processes written words properly. So the first time listening to Paul reunite with Gurney, I remember thinking, WTF. That's way more emotional than I think. That's way more emotional than I would think this reunion would be. But my second time through, I'm reminded of some of my old friends, the ones who remember me before my injury, before the PTSD, before I became a fractured consciousness. And every time I see one of these old friends, I feel like the old me again. Like for the short time, I am the Heath that wrote poetry and short stories that moved people's hearts. So I think that Paul awakened and tuned into universal consciousness, but when Gurney shows up for a moment, he could just be Paul, talented, optimistic, son of the Duke, who can laugh and be totally in the moment, in the now moment. You grow to cherish those relationships as life takes you into new volumes of your personal legend. Do you have a friend or two who brings you back to your younger self within? Aren't they priceless? 100%. I mean, not only does this happen to Paul with Gurney, and I do like that he calls him, like, Gurney's calling him, like, you young pup, he calls him this young pup. And then he's like, Gurney man, and it's like, and it is like, he gets to immediately go back to that time. And it is nice because that's the thing is, like, even though Paul is totally down with his responsibility and he's going to do what needs to be done, he does hate not just being Paul. Like, he wants to just be a human. I mean, that's the thing. He kind of reminds me of Superman in a way where, he is this super being, but he's really more like he'd rather just be Paul. Like, he doesn't want to be like this crazy. He wants to be human. He wants to have a human experience. I mean, that's why Chani is so important to him because she's someone that he can be a person around and not a messiah and this legend and this fucking, all this stuff. Like, because that's a lot, and sometimes you just want to be a fucking human being with somebody else and just share a connection. And yeah, and so that's what Paul gets to do with Gurney. It's just like you're totally right. He just gets to be himself again. He gets to be the old Paul. It's just who's a boy, and like because even now, like right now, he's like 18 or 19. And so I mean, it's like think about like this 18, 19-year-old like. He's doing shit that 18 and 19-year-olds normally aren't fucking doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's doing a lot. And he still is, he's not a child, but he still is in a lot of ways. And so him just being able to be Paul, regular Paul, is really a great feeling. And I mean, we see that also with Jessica. I mean, Jessica's like nervous about seeing Gurney because, I mean, she's buried who she was. I mean, she used to be the fucking lover of this Duke, and just like they had this beautiful love. They had this beautiful love together, and she was just so much softer and kinder and like just a different person, younger, like it was all these things. And then when Gurney comes back, she's just like reminded of all this shit because I mean, after the fall, I mean, she's just been on the run, and she has no friends. She doesn't go hang out with people. She doesn't go to I guess she parties with the Fremen, like that's like her only respite is like hanging out at the Fremen spice orgies. But I mean, she doesn't have anyone on her level. She doesn't have anyone to be a human with. Except for like, I mean, maybe Alia, like her and Alia have a connection, but it's just like she hasn't been able to be a person. She's had to become this reverend mother of these people, and like she's had to have her consciousness transformed, and then now she's being reminded of like who she was before all of this, and she's just like really taken aback by it, and she has to kind of. Now that Gurney's back, it's like she's like has to reassess herself and see herself like in a different light, like from his eyes, be like, oh my God, this guy hasn't seen me in so long, and how different am I now? Like, and but yeah, there's definitely friends I have that take me back, and those people are really important. And I'm glad that you have those people still in your life, even though your life may have changed in ways that you super did not plan or expect. And I'm sure it's been extremely difficult. I can't even imagine like not being able to read a book anymore. Like that's fucking crazy, like that is really tragic, and that is really sad. But as this sense of yours has been taken away from you, I'm sure other senses of yours are being sharpened, things that you never expected to be, like I'm sure something was taken from you, but you also get something when that happens. And I don't know what that is, but I hope that you find it, and I hope that you appreciate it. And I'm glad you're still around though, like regardless of whether you can't read books anymore, like glad you're still on this planet, glad you're here doing Dune Club with us. And yeah, thank you for your support and thank you for your question. Jasper Fenn asks, hey CBG19, I can't believe this is nearly over. I know. I never cared about The Watchmen, but plan to join that club too and see if it grows on me. Any chance that you'll be doing Dune Messiah Club? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe next summer we'll see. It'll probably, if I did do it, I would maybe make it more low key, you know, and it might be just something where it's like, hey, let's just kind of casually do it together. I don't know if I would do like this big, it would still be like a, you know, I'd get online and talk to you about it and we talk about it, but it would probably be a little different. It might be a little bit more chill because I don't know exactly how many people would want to follow me into Dune Messiah. You can lead a bunch of people to read Dune, but leading people to read Dune Messiah is probably not going to be a ton.
Do a poll.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a poll. And she goes on to ask, or he, I don't know, Jasper could go either way. Is it ever made clear what Paul did to Gurney's crew? They seem to have been forgotten, which seems uncharacteristic of Gurney at least. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I don't know. What did happen to his crew? I mean, did they let the smugglers go back because they were like, you know, just keep the Sardaukar? Or did they kill them all? Because I think that if they had killed them all, that would have really bummed out Gurney. I don't think he would have been, like, down for that, you know? So, I don't know. Maybe they paid off the smugglers or something with some spice. But that's a good question, actually. I never really thought about that. You're totally right. I'm not sure. Magnus D. Magnus asks, what does full-breasted Ories mean? Does full-breasted Ories mean what I think it means? And I don't know if I'm saying that right. Ories? Houries? Auries? Is it Auries? I'm not entirely sure how to even pronounce that word. But what's his face? Fade Rautha said it before, like by the, you know, when he sees Margot, like he uses that word as well. But if you look it up, it means a beautiful young woman, especially one of the virgin companions of the faithful in the Muslim paradise. So, you know, it means hot lady that is like awesome and perfect. So that's what that means. Yeah. Andrew Rich, this question relates to Children of Dune, so if you're not answering those, then just ignore this. But I guess I was wondering how Alia could become possessed by her grandfather. I thought only the Kwisatz Haderach could interact with both genders of their ancestry, and what women would only interact with their feminine history. Is this an oversight by Frank Herbert? That's something I've been rolling around in my brain too. I mean, I'm totally with you on this because that's what I thought was the deal. But then in this, like, but maybe it's just like your close family, like the close, I can't remember the name of that word, but there's a term for it. That's like your immediate family, you know, like maybe your immediate family, but Alia is also Abomination. I mean, she's not a normal person either, you know, like I mean, it's interesting. We'll talk about it in the next chapter, but, I mean, she's able to do certain things that Paul is not able to do. Like, I mean, she is also, like, as far as like, oh, you know, Paul's like, I'm something unexpected. She's even way more unexpected. And she's got some really weird tricks that she can do. So I think that she might be like an exception to the rule, perhaps. But that is a really good question. I've been trying to like figure that out myself. Tim Farber asks, oil is an finite resource that's taken millions of years to create. If civilization needs to start over again, it would be nice to have that resource there if we have to start from a pre-industrial state. Just like there are stages in evolution of life, there are stages in the evolution of conscious or civilization. But there's no question here. So, okay. Well, I mean, I just think there's other ways though. I mean, there's got to be other ways. There's other resources we can use. Like there's other things we can do besides oil. Like we have got to figure that shit out. Unless I'm mistaken. Oh, let me see. Okay, so Jasper chimes in on the things like, unless I'm mistaken, isn't that they can't access male ancestors, just not male ancestors along paternal lines? Like the Baron was her mother's father. He gave her mother an X chromosome, so she had access. She would not have had access to the Baron's father. So Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this whole genetic shit gets like really weird. Nathan Fennell asks, why is it called the Orange Catholic Bible? I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. I need to look into that and see like where, like why he came up with like, but I love it. It sounds so good. You know, like that's something that I love about Frank Herbert is he's so good at naming things. Like I was just thinking like Stilgar, like what a sick fucking name that is, you know? And then I was thinking about, yeah, like the Orange Catholic Bible. That's just such great branding, you know, it just like sounds really cool. And I love how he uses words from different cultures, words from different times. Like he's such a wordsmith. He's so good with that. And like Gurney Halleck, like it's good. It's good to say. It just rolls off the tongue. It's like really great. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. So now it's time to some questions from.
I've got about 3.
Okay.
Looks like everyone jumped on our Patreon.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, thanks for jumping on the Patreon though. That's pretty sick. We'll take some questions from you guys though. So if you have them, you know, smoke them if you got them. You know what I'm saying? Accept. All right. Zagardril Brandgard asks, how would you compare Dune's prescience to the one in Watchmen? Both tragic characters trapped in their visions of the future, but Paul can choose. He and Leto can see endless possibilities, while Manhattan can only see one possibility, the one that will actually happen, or the one that already did, according to him. Yeah, that is a really good thing to point out, is that we do have another prescient character in The Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan. He goes through a change, this accident, and it turns him into this kind of cosmic being, you know? He's just like this cosmic dude. But yeah, for him, time is linear. You know, it is a little bit of a different take on it, where it isn't. Although I don't know, it's like it's been a few years, like more than a few years since I've read Watchmen, so it's like I need to brush up on this. But he does like already see like what's already happened. Like I don't think he sees multiple future timelines, but that's like, you know, it's also really hard to write all that shit. So it's like for Alan Moore, it's like, well, just he already knows. It's like this is how we'll get around this problem, because it is a problem to write a character who thinks like that and like can see those sorts of things. It's a super mindfuck. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting comparison. Stargazer 1977 asks, in case she takes Twitch questions this week, I have one. I want her to give us her Dune mixtape, what music she listens to while reading, or does she think inspires her to think of Dune. For me, I listen to Clint Mansell's The Fountain soundtrack while reading, and Mastodon's The Emperor of Sand while thinking about Dune. That's awesome. I'll definitely check those out. I saw The Fountain in like the theater. I haven't seen it since then. I feel like I need to revisit The Fountain, to be quite honest with you. Because I hated the movie when I saw it, because it just made me really sad. I cried a lot, and I was just like, why are you making me this sad? Like, this is too sad. What is this? It just like ruined my day. But I need to like give it another shot, because I mean, it obviously had an emotional impact on me. Aronofsky is interesting dude. And I'll definitely check out I don't listen to a lot of I know Mastodon fans, but I haven't ever been like a big I mean, you know. So I'll check out The Emperor of Sand. Mastodon's not my speed as much. I can't listen to like, I don't know, I'm already like crazy and intense. Like I have to like listen to chill stuff, like, because I'm like already super intense. But honestly, like when I've been reading Dune, like I don't know, I just feel like every time I put on music, it just gets in the way. I like just reading it. I don't like music is distracting to me when I'm reading Dune. I just want to like focus like everything onto Dune. So I really don't like listen to anything, but I'll think about some things. If I can come up with something, I'll like send you guys some links on Patreon or something. And our next question, Mr. Matt Raymond, did Gurney have the hots for Jessica while she was still married to the Duke? And that's why he feels so betrayed by her when he thinks she was the traitor? And I mean, I'm sure he noticed that she's super hot. I mean, he's a man, you know, but at the same time, he had such respect for his friend and such respect for, you know, his station that like he would have never considered trying anything and never thought that anything like that would ever be possible. But I mean, I'm sure everyone is probably attracted to Jessica on some level because she's super attractive and like is super badass. So But I love Gurney and Jessica together, and that happens, in life. You'll see it where you have, a man or a woman that dies, and then, the widow or widower gets with like the best friend, and they kind of bond over their love for that person. That actually happened in Spawn, by the way. Remember Spawn's partner gets with like Spawn's wife, and then they become together, because it's like they do care about each other. So it's like it's not an unusual thing to have happen. But I really like Gurney and Jessica together because I don't know, it's just like they're so cute. I like that he's just like ugly, but like super badass and like just is like just the coolest guy. I don't know, Gurney just seems like the coolest motherfucker, man. Like of anyone in the Dune novels to hang out with, I feel like hanging out with Gurney Halleck would probably be the most fun. Like Duncan Idaho later on in the series would be a lot of fun to chill out with, but Gurney is like he's so cool. He's fucking amazing. Like I can't even get over that guy. And we'll talk a little bit more. Like there's more hints. Like that's another thing. Like it's never really stated like outright that Gurney and Jessica are together. I think it may be hinted at more in Children of Dune. It comes back up because it comes back up a little bit in Children of Dune, but there's more allusions to it in the final session. Yeah, I think they deserve it. They deserve it. They've had a hard time. They need to like have some fun with one another. Like I hope I love that Paul is like, my mom seems so old, and then he's like, oh, she hasn't had any man to love. She hasn't had any love in her life. It's like she's still a woman. Like she still wants, like everybody wants a partner. It's like nobody likes being alone all the time, and like being Reverend Mother is just like, oh, such a burden. It's like super not fun, and that's why she's become less fun, is because she doesn't have any fun in her life, So it's like, yeah, he's just like, oh. And then I like that he's like, oh, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go check on some stuff, so he can leave them together, to just like hopefully bond, And I thought it was really sweet that he was like totally okay with it, like wasn't being a dick about it. Wasn't like, oh, the memory of my father. You should never love anyone else ever again, Like that's because that happens sometimes when, it's like the kids don't want the mother or the father to like ever get remarried or like date anybody else ever again, because it's a front against the memory of their, lost loved one. But it's like, it's not, it's like people are humans. They need love. So I'm glad that Jessica and Gurney are totally going to get together. I think it's really cute. Any other questions or anything? Oh, okay. So, all right. Before we go, because you guys, I think we got all our questions. Before I go, I want to talk to you guys about going to see Darren Aronofsky's Mother. I think you guys go see it, go support that movie. Like I just want to. There's a lot of hate out there, and I kind of want to encourage you guys to go check it out because it's really cool. It's like I'm like really disturbed by how many people just like really hate this movie. I'm disturbed a little bit by the reaction towards it. I can understand people like feeling like it's a bit much, or I can understand people, not really connecting with the subject matter potentially on some level. But I think it's like a real fucking movie. It's a real movie by a real director who really had something to say. Whether you like what he had to say or not, or whether you're interested in that subject matter, is up to you. That's personal, but like what he did totally worked. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm really like I have a lot of respect for Jennifer Lawrence. Like I just have so much respect for her. Of all the like celebrities, A-list people, it's like Jennifer Lawrence is like the only one that I'm like, dude, I would totally want to hang out with J-Law. Like I would totally hang out with J-Law because I can see in her fucking eyes that she's a human being. Like she's not just some vapid celebrity, whatever. I think that she's a really talented girl. I think she's a really smart girl. I think that she knows what she's doing. I think she understands the consequences of her actions. I think she's taken on a lot by allowing herself to become an A-list star, and to take on an alchemical role like she did in Mother, where essentially you know, spoilers, she takes on like the mantle of like the divine feminine, you know, in this movie. It's like this, you have this divine masculine and you have the divine feminine. It's very allegorical, it's very surreal. And they live in this house, and the house is kind of like our planet, you know, and then it's like goes on, and it has a lot of biblical stuff in there, but then it goes past that and like how religion and like
Don't give it
humanity.
away. Don't give it away.
Whatever.
I'm trying to get Vicky to see it with no information at all.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
But it's like it's amazing to me that like she would decide to take on a role like that. I think like I just have so much respect for her to do that because it is such like a difficult role because
It's best if you see it without knowing anything at all.
okay, Tyson doesn't want me to talk about it, I guess. So I guess we won't talk about it. So never mind. Sorry,
We're
guys.
gonna do a review of it. We've been trying for 2 weeks to film a review of it.
I know. We have been trying for 2 weeks to film a review of it, but we've just had a really fucked up schedule lately, and we just have not had time to do it. And I really want to talk about it. I really want to defend it. I want to defend Mother. I want to defend it. It's my honor.
We're going to.
And we're going to talk about it. But I want you guys to go out there and check it out because especially like for me, obviously I have to watch a lot of movies for my job. I watch a ton of movies. And I've just seen a lot of fucking garbage. I've seen a lot of fucking garbage made by fucking committees of assholes who have no fucking clue what they're doing, that are not artists. They are motherfucking bean counters. And I'm so tired of basic, boring bitch movies, you know? Like, I just want to fucking... Like, that's why I'm pivoting my channel, is because I just can't keep talking about garbage. Like, I just can't do it. That's why I'm doing Dune Club. That's why I'm doing Dune Club. Because I just, like... If I have to talk about some fucking inane, like, Suicide Squad, you know? It's like fucking suicides. I had a fucking existential breakdown while trying to fucking talk about that movie on film. I was just like, I don't even want to talk about this. Like, this sucks. This sucks. There's nothing to talk about. It's garbage. It's just fucking garbage. And so, to see a movie that was a real movie by an artist who had something to say, who, like, was, like, wanting to, like, explore some shit, it was just such a breath of fresh air for me. It was just such a breath of fresh air. I was just like... art. Like, so there's some art in this movie, you know? It's not just a franchise, IP, money-making scheme, you know, like from some fucking studio. It was just like, it was a real crazy movie. It was super out there.
Not to watch the trailer because it's false advertising.
Oh yeah, the trailer is false advertising. Don't watch the marketing. The marketing, I feel like the marketing is the biggest reason why it's getting such bad reviews and stuff like that, is because I believe that people were told to think that it's a horror movie when, while it does have a lot of horror elements in there and it explores a lot of different horror ideas, it's not a horror movie. It's an allegory, you know, it's allegorical, it's surrealist, it's a fever dream, you know. So, and to market it like it's just like some...
It looked like a haunted house movie.
Yeah, to market it like it's some haunted house movie was just like, I can see why the marketing team and the studio thought that was a good idea. I understand where they came from with that, but they were wrong. They fucked up. They fucked up. But it is a hard movie to market. I mean, it's a really hard movie to market. I totally see that too. It's a pickle. It's not easy. So I have compassion, but yeah, I think that, I don't know, I just want to encourage you guys to go support art and go see it and check it out and go in and let it happen to you. Just let it happen to you. I want to see it again. I feel like I want to see it again. I want to support it. And God, again, okay, going back to my Facebook feed and how I hate everybody on there. I just saw so many of these fucking dickheads talking shit about Mother on there, like on my feed, you know, all these fucking pricks who have no fucking clue what they're talking about, that are just like so up their own asses, you know. And I was just like, oh wow, you guys suck. And I didn't say anything. I didn't fight with anybody. Mainly I fight with people on Facebook these days. That's what I do. Every time I get on there, I end up like fighting with somebody on there. I need to just like delete that shit. Just get it out of my life. Although there's a couple people though. I mean, there's a couple people that like I follow on my Facebook feed that, like, there's this one guy from college. We weren't even really good friends in college or anything. Like, we never like hung out. But we became, you know, we're Facebook friends, and I've just kind of been able to keep up with him, and he like always posts really funny memes. Like, I just like him, because it's like, I don't really know you, I don't know about your life, I barely knew you in college, we're friends, but you actually post like dope memes constantly that I'm usually resharing. And like, but those type of people are very few and far between. I feel like most of the people on there, I'm like, ugh. But most of the people on there that I don't like are like LA people that I like, whatever. Just lame. Just so many lame asses out there. It's like, I can see why people hate millennials and like hate people my age. I get it. Like, I hate my fucking neighbors too. Like they're the people. I'm like, oh my god, like they're exactly like I get it. Why like Fox News people are like, oh, these fucking assholes. Like I get it. Tyson's telling me to shut up, that I should stop talking. He's face palming right now. He's face palming and doing this and doing this. Like,
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
wrap it up, T.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up for today. Enough of me complaining about my fucking Facebook feed. What a first world problem. What a dickhead I am.
I know someone you know is watching this right now.
No, they're not. They're not. Nobody from my fucking face, like, they don't even fucking give a shit. No, they're not. They're not doing Dune Club. If they were doing Dune Club, then they're actually the cool one. They know that I'm not talking shit about them.
Okay, that's it for Dune Club today.
All right, that's okay. That's it for Dune Club today. Next week is our final week. We're gonna be doing the end of the book. I can't believe it's already here. I've had so much fun with you guys. But I really look forward to it. I already read it and I was like talking to T. I was like, oh man, and then this happens, and then this happens, and I was like getting super excited. So I cannot wait to talk to you guys. It'll probably be a double stuffed episode fucking next Sunday. So we'll see you then. Thank you guys for coming. Dune Club, Session 11. Super sick.